Get up. Get up. Well, get up. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up.
Come on, kick the funk. Rock to the rhythm, go. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. Cause ghetto funk has got to beat the show shot. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. So who the squad that'll make the house drop? Ghetto funk with the rhythm, you don't stop. Cause the squad has got to beat the show shot. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. So who the squad that'll make the house drop? Ghetto.
Get up. Get up. Well, get up. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up.
Here we go. Rock to the rhythm, go. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. Cause ghetto funk has got to beat the show shot. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. So who the squad that'll make the house drop? Ghetto funk with the rhythm, you don't stop. Cause the squad has got to beat the show shot. I said rock to the rhythm, you don't stop. So who the squad that'll make the house drop? Ghetto. That's right.
Get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. It's like that, y'all. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Come on. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Well, get up. Get up, do the up rock. Get down and shake it when the beat drop. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Well, get up.
What's up, mommies and poppies, boys and girls? I am Aldo Gandia, otherwise known as the whitest Puerto Rican in the world. Look how white I look. I think if my mom were here, she would say, "Are you dead?" And I would reply, "No, honey, you're the one that's dead. I just look like I'm dead. I need some sun, man. I need to get out of this house and get some sun. Maybe go on vacation to some hot weather place." Science, my podcast, my man Carl says, "I heard Joy Taylor is tonight's guest." No, I think she's busy. You know what I mean? Keith Lutz says, "Although I hope this music doesn't stick in my brain like a 1970s era Bee Gees song." Yeah, I know what you mean, Keith. A lot of those songs are embedded in my mind. Michael says, "Aldo is the man." Holy shit, man. Nice compliment. And Aunt Moss asked the question, "Do you think if Mike McCarthy is the hire, it was a George McCaskey hire?" You know what? And that's a thought that hadn't crossed my mind, but I will tell you this. As soon as I heard that the Bears were going to interview him, of course, this was when they asked for permission a week ago, is when it started to first percolate. Man, if he is not renewed by the Cowboys, I got a feeling this guy is going to be the front runner. Because of all the things that you're going to hear on this show. You know, he's got experience. He worked with Aaron Rodgers, who Caleb loves. He's got the experience of coming in and working on the locker room. All sorts of stuff sort of points to him. And let me ask you guys in the chat the question. If you were making your second head coach hire, would you take a chance on a guy like Ben Johnson, who has never coached before, who doesn't have the experience of leading an entire team? Yes, it's clear and plain that he is an obvious genius at running an offense, but he's got Pro Bowl players up and down that offensive starting roster. And it's a dangerous choice, even though you're fairly certain he can run the offense. It's still a fairly dangerous choice to go with a novice head coach. Keith says, "I'd grab McCarthy, period. Doesn't matter," he says. And Matt says our opening song is Tooch's porno intro. Yeah. But that's the thing, you know, and that's why I'm starting to believe that McCarthy could be the guy. Now, I understand he was flown to Chicago on a private plane, but somebody told me that it was ESPN reported that it was Mike's idea to fly in and do a face-to-face, Mike McCarthy's idea. And so, but I don't know who paid for the plane. That probably had to be the Chicago Bears. You know, if you're going to be a world-class organization, even if the head coach says, "I want to do a face-to-face," you have to pick up the ticket. And given the size of the gentleman, the idea of coach is buying him 2 seats. So you better put him in first class or business class. So there it is. Brandon says, "Aldo, please don't, bro, please." And Brandon and I have been texting with one another, and he and I have the same fear that it's Mike McCarthy. Now, I will tell you this. In preparation for the show, I pulled together some media clips, and there were some convincing comments by the media pundits about why McCarthy would be a good choice. It was, I would say, like 90%, 10% in favor of McCarthy comes to the Bears. And I ran a poll with Chicago Bears fans. It was the exact opposite. It was, no, we don't want that fat guy over here. Is he going to be a spy for the Packers? All sorts of negative stuff, you know. And there was obviously some Bears fans who liked the idea, like Keith. But I I think this could be one of the most divisive head coach selections of all time. It is certainly one of the most dangerous for Ryan Poles. And, somebody asked a second ago, is Aunt Mass, is this a George McCaskey hire? Well, I don't want George McCaskey's advice on anything at all, unless he's got advice on how for me to land some free season tickets. But I do think that he needs advice. He being Ryan Poles. He needs to make tons of calls. And I've also been critical of the extensive search. I've got the list here. I pulled a screen grab from our friends over at ESPN, the worldwide leader. They've completed interviews with Thomas Brown, Pete Carroll, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Mike Kafka, Drew Petzing, Ron Rivera, David Shaw, Mike Vrabel, and Anthony Weaver. I made the joke that when Drew Petzing came up on Zoom, everybody on the Bears side was, oh shit, he's white? Because who the hell has heard of Drew Petzing? Come on, even though he was offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. And then they've requested interviews with Joe Brady, Matt Campbell, Brian Flores, Cliff Kingsbury, Todd Monken, and Adam Stenovich, the offensive coordinator under Matt LaFleur. What the hell just popped up on my screen? Anyway, I've been critical of this extensive search because there are other things to do besides interviewing people. There are background checks. There's actually making calls to other people who know the prime candidates. And the thing is, who are the prime candidates? I don't know who they are. And so it seems to me like Poles could be devoting some time on doing checks on the candidates that he likes and even coming up with his own plan. The search is so widespread that I worry that perhaps he's not really absolutely sure on what he wants as the next head coach for the Chicago Bears. All right, so I got a couple of guests. Danikin from Three Kings of the Midway, or Three Kangs of the Midway, will be up in a little while. But first, I want to share with you an interview that I did. And I'm glad Dankin just joined us in the green room. I'm glad he's here early so that he could hear David Howman, who writes for Blogging the Bears and covers the Cowboys. I want him to hear, and I want everyone to hear, David's thoughts on Mike McCarthy. Because then on the other side, I can talk to Dan about it because I know that Dan probably is not as an admirer. I see him laughing now. Not as an admirer of McCarthy like this gentleman is. Let me play that for you now. Okay, as promised, with me is David Howman, who writes for Blogging the Boys, and you're also co-host of the Writer's Block podcast, which covers the Cowboys. Isn't that right?
Yeah, that's right. You can hear me every Wednesday morning talking about the Cowboys.
So what's the prevailing feeling among Cowboys fans and people who cover the Dallas Cowboys? Is this a good move for the team? You happy to see Mike McCarthy move on, or is there some sadness?
I think it really depends on who you ask. Myself personally, I was banging the drum all year to bring back Mike McCarthy. I was very much a believer in him. The prevailing sentiment among the fan base is kind of relief. There's been this rocky relationship with McCarthy and the fans pretty much since he got to Dallas. And a lot of fans wanted him fired after both losses to the 49ers in the playoffs.
You need someone, San Francisco, to get better. Prescott takes off running the football. Well, I don't think this is going to work out. They'll be able to clock this. They were playing for it. We're down. Oh, my gosh. The official gets in the way. The game's over.
A lot of fans really wanted him fired after the loss to the Packers in the playoffs last year. And then this narrative all year long with McCarthy coaching into the final year of his contract, which is so rare in the NFL. And then, of course, the season doesn't go as it was planned. Dak Prescott gets hurt. Micah Parsons missed time. And that you finish with a losing season. And a lot of fans wanted him gone. A muffed punt where they blocked the Bengals in the final 2 minutes. The players did not quit on this guy. Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, CeeDee Lamb all publicly said, we want Mike McCarthy back. We will advocate for him to come back. And as more details have come out since the two parted ways on Monday, it sounds like this was more so Mike McCarthy's decision, and he felt like Jerry Jones wasn't willing to commit to him on the level that he was wanting to see for his next contract, and decided, you know what, Chicago wants me to interview, New Orleans wants me to interview. I'll go to Chicago, get some deep dish, and then head on my way down to New Orleans to see what the Saints are all about. Thanks, but no thanks, I'm out.
Now, let me ask you about McCarthy's work with Dak Prescott, because obviously the Chicago Bears are looking for a coach to develop their first-round pick. What can you tell us about Coach McCarthy's relationship with Dak and how he helped him progress?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting the way that things progressed while he was in Dallas, because when he first showed up, he kept Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator, who's now the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia. There was a lot of controversy. There's differing reports on whether that was truly McCarthy's decision, whether that was, he was handcuffed to Moore by Jerry Jones. But either way, Kellen Moore was the play caller for McCarthy's first 3 years in Dallas. So as far as with Dak Prescott, that really focused on more personal things. Obviously that first year with McCarthy, Dak Prescott suffers a season-ending injury in week 5. A big part of their relationship was really just McCarthy getting to know Prescott a little bit better, building their relationship, and that served as a solid foundation moving forward. And then the last 2 years he's been calling plays. And as that relates to, from the football perspective, how to project that to what he would do with Caleb Williams, Mike McCarthy has long had a reputation of being a quarterback-friendly coach. Going back to, he coached Joe Montana back with the Chiefs, which, everybody remembers. Joe Montana, Chiefs legend, took over for the last part of Favre's career in Green Bay. And then, Aaron Rodgers very much came up under Mike McCarthy. A lot of his system is really based on simplifying the offense and speeding things up for the quarterback, getting the ball out quickly. One of the biggest changes for the Cowboys offense that he made was essentially in our drop back passing game, you've got your first read. If it's there, hit it. If it's not, find your second read. And at that point, if your first 2 reads aren't there, get out of the pocket, go into your scramble drill. And in the words of Thomas Brown, the interim head coach for the Bears, go be Superman. That worked really well for Dak Prescott. He was a runner-up for MVP in 2023, his first year with McCarthy calling plays. In having watched several games of Caleb Williams, both at USC and then now at the Bears, I definitely see a lot of ways that this would be a good fit for Caleb, just in terms of, simplifying things for him after the snap process, so that he can go look for DJ Moore, he can look for Rome Odunze, and if it's not there, then he gets to do the thing that really separates him from all the other rookies in this class: get out of the pocket, do that scramble drill. And Mike McCarthy, both with the Packers and the Cowboys, puts a real emphasis on practicing the scramble drill in practices in the offseason, so that when the quarterback does get out of the pocket, receivers know where to go. The quarterback knows where his guys are going to be, so that they're going to be able to get some really good plays when the quarterback does improvise.
One of the complaints that I've heard about Mike McCarthy's offense is that it's not innovative, that it is kind of stuck in the decades ago types offenses that he ran with the Packers.
I think it's probably a bit point, but it's not entirely without merit. McCarthy is for as much as he presents himself as he's very proud of his Pittsburgh roots. He tries to present himself as this guy that's we're going to be physical, we're going to punch guys in the mouth. He also is very deferential to his players. So going back to when he was an offensive coordinator for the Saints, those offenses relative to the rest of the league, they ran a lot of motion, they ran a lot of play action. They did a lot of things that at that time, this is early 2000s, was fairly innovative, was fairly creative for the rest of the league's offensive trends. When he gets to Green Bay, and this was talked about, very early in his Packers tenure, Aaron Rodgers was not a fan of motion. He was not a fan of of play action. He didn't like turning his back to the defense. So McCarthy more or less took that out. In Dallas, there's been certain concepts from the Kellen Moore offense that he kept in place because it was something Dak Prescott really liked. And so that those have both kind of impacted his ability to be to really flex his Ben Johnson muscles, if you will, and show himself as a really creative play caller. But there's definitely been times where we've seen, especially in this past season, once Cooper Rush became the starter and they kind of got into this mode of we're technically still alive in the playoff hunt, but also we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. There were some concepts that we got to see thrown out there of okay, he's kind of reaching into his bag now, but for the most part, he does really put an emphasis on doing what his quarterback is comfortable with, doing what his receivers are comfortable with. Sometimes that results in repetitive play calls. Sometimes that results in things that maybe not be as exciting. He's not going to call any plays where, Caleb Williams pretends to stumble as the fake handoff and then throws a wide open touchdown to Cole Kmet. But for the most part, I mean, he keeps things simple so that his quarterback every single play is going to know where he's going with the ball. There's not going to really be a whole lot of situations where he's unsure of what he's supposed to do or is having to take too much time standing back there in the pocket. So it's a bit of a trade-off there. But his track record, for offensive results and also his record as a head coach speaks for itself. And I don't think he's necessarily keen on completely overhauling that part of the operation.
Caleb was on a podcast, the St. Brown podcast, and mentioned when asked about what he's looking for in a head coach, and one of the first things he said was a leader of men. Could you apply that title or that characteristic to Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy's tenure in Dallas, it got off to a really tricky start. He comes in and he in the introductory press conference, Jerry Jones is talking about, in the interview he said, he's watched every single snap of every single game, he knows this roster through and through already, he studied us so much. And then McCarthy made kind of a joke, but it was very awkward where he's like,
I told Jerry I watched every play of the 2019 season, but I wanted the job. So I haven't watched every play of the season, but it was just, you do what you got to do, right?
It started off kind of awkward. And then, of course, once he builds his coaching staff, part of it was, like I said, keeping Kellen Moore, that people weren't really sure how's this going to work out, this fit. And then, of course, a month later, COVID hit and the whole offseason program was completely changed from anything that McCarthy's done before. And so that first year was very rocky between McCarthy and the rest of the roster. There were a lot of these guys that he didn't even meet in person until they started training camp, which is very different from the usual setting. But then after that, once he kind of got on a familiar basis with his players, 3 straight 12-win seasons. Obviously this year didn't go the way that they expected it to, but injuries played a large part of that. And, players were still fighting for him even after they were eliminated from the playoff contention. They were publicly saying, we want him back. There were several different points throughout his tenure, through the good and the bad seasons, where when the Cowboys would lose, they had a tendency to, in the next game, whoever it was that they were playing against, more often than not, they won, and they won in, big fashion, blowing guys out. And a lot of that was attributed to the mentality that Mike McCarthy had coming in. He really put an emphasis on, we're going to win our home games, we're going to win our division games, and when we do lose, we're going to come out, we're going to play angry, and we're going to play like the team we know we can be and prove to everyone that the loss the week before, that's not the real us. So, right now there's a lot of, everybody wants a leader of men because everyone's seen Dan Campbell and how successful he's been in Detroit. I'm not going to sit here and say Mike McCarthy is similar to Dan Campbell. They're definitely different people. He's got a more understated approach, but I think in general, though, Mike McCarthy, he's done a very good job of connecting with his players, bringing in good coaches like Dan Quinn, like Mike Zimmer, and empowering them to put the players in the best position to succeed. And just from the sheer experience as well, having obviously been in Green Bay, knowing the NFC North, knowing the Bears, I think he has more wins against the Bears in his career than any other team he's faced. So I think from a leadership, from a respect standpoint, in theory, he should be able to get a lot of buy-in from players.
And if this works out for Mike McCarthy, he's the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. What can Bears fans expect from the defensive side of the ball and how McCarthy coaches that?
Yeah, well, I think it would be kind of fun if he brings in Mike Zimmer, and then maybe he can bring Jim Caldwell and like all the Infinity Stones of the NFC North. But Mike McCarthy is very much an offensive guy. He doesn't really get too terribly involved with the X's and O's of the defense, but what he's always looked for, he talks a lot about complementary football. He's going to want a defense that can play very fast and play very aggressive. So when he first came to Dallas, he hired Mike Nolan to be his defensive coordinator. He was out after a year. Things did not go very well, but what they were trying to do with that defense was what they ultimately did with Dan Quinn when he came in a year later, which was have a defense that from the looks, from the fronts that they give you pre-snap, you have no idea what you're getting. They would bluff a lot of blitzers. They would drop guys into coverage that you're not expecting. They ran a lot of stunts and twists on the defensive line to confuse offensive linemen, and really just always playing with an attacking mindset. Dan Quinn comes very much the stuff that he succeeded as the Seahawks defensive coordinator under Pete Carroll. And having Micah Parsons also helped a lot when you have a guy like that. But they were pretty much always trying to rush the passer, always playing either like cover 3 or press cover 3, or they were playing press man coverage, trying to be aggressive and physical with opposing receivers. And Mike Zimmer is a little bit of a different approach in terms of the X's and O's, but still the same mentality of attacking. Mike McCarthy's ideal defense is one that as long as his offense goes down the field and they can score, and as long as they're always nursing a lead, his defense, basically, they just get to pin their ears back, go after the quarterback. And he had a lot of blowout wins in Dallas as their head coach, similarly in Green Bay, largely because he got that complementary football of our offense is scoring points, the defense is sacking the quarterback left and right. He doesn't really get too caught up in the specific X's and O's, but he's more so just find me a defensive coordinator who philosophically matches up with me on that, and however they make their defense aggressive, I don't really care that part, but I want someone who matches my style.
David, you've provided a really great portrait of Mike McCarthy. Is there anything else you want to share with Chicago Bears fans regarding McCarthy that we should know if indeed, he becomes the next Bears head coach?
I think what I think most about McCarthy and what I'll miss from covering the Cowboys is, by all accounts, he's a really incredible, genuine person. He's somebody who cares a lot about his players, goes out of his way to express that to them. He also is very he's very patient, and he's very honest with members of the media. I've heard countless stories from people who are on the ground in Dallas who talk to him every single day in the locker room and press conferences, and he would meet you and he would remember your name the next time. He would strike up conversations with you in the hallway. And if people ask questions that, might be dumb questions, he's never once belittled people. He's never once made fun of people. He builds relationships and he'll joke around with you. He also built a reputation for being very cautious with players that were working through an injury. He'd never rushed people back from injuries. If there was ever a situation where, there's, several times had key players like Micah Parsons, like CeeDee Lamb, who you really want to get those guys back, obviously. And it's kind of a toss-up of should they play, should they wait another week? He more often than not would lean towards let's wait another week. The last thing that he wants to do is put someone's long-term health at risk just for the sake of getting a short-term win. I think, obviously there's going to be a lot of conversation about his time in Dallas, why it ended the way it did, why his time in Green Bay ended the way it did. Is he the guy to turn the Bears around? when you're interviewing guys like Ben Johnson, who I'm sure the fan base, probably everybody universally wants him. But just as a person, I think Mike McCarthy will do wonders for the culture, wonders for the people that are covering the team. I think, he's won a lot, with 2 different teams now and had a lot of really successful players, but he's also, in my mind, a grade A human being.
Fantastic stuff, David. You write for Blogging the Boys. Your podcast is called The Writer's Block, and that's on the Cowboys, right? Why the title, The Writer's Block?
Well, it was started originally by a bunch of us writers at Blogging the Boys who came up with the idea that, hey, sometimes we can't really come up with something to write, but we can all hop on a call and talk football for an hour. And so when we've got writer's block, let's do this. And that's kind of where it came from.
Very, very clever. Really appreciate you hanging out with us for a few minutes and giving us this perspective on Mike McCarthy. We'll see you down the road, okay?
Yeah. Thank you for having me on.
All right, I apologize for the the video quality on the video there. I made a mistake on my end. I will be posting just that interview on our Barroom Network YouTube channel and also on X. I'll do it a couple hours after the end of this show in case those of you tuned it out because it was too fuzzy or for whatever reason it needs to stand alone. I appreciate David. He writes for Blogging the Boys, and his Twitter handle is _DH44_. So I thought, his case for McCarthy all made sense. And later I'm going to have some highlights of the media talking about it. And they basically echo what David said. So right now, what I want to know is what Dan says. Danikin, what is happening, my man?
What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Thank you. And how are you and your family?
Man, good, man. I appreciate you having me on too. It's nice to be here. I love talking about the Bears, so anytime I get a chance to do it, I'm happy to do it.
Love it. Now, are you guys on hiatus with your podcast, The Three Kings?
Yeah, we took a little bit of a break, man. Got some things going on. We took a little bit of a break, but we'll be right back at it. We'll be probably starting it up next week and doing some more things, and we got some things in store though. Definitely.
Love it. Good luck with all that. And because I went to listen to your last episode, it was like November, and I started playing it. You guys were like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Yeah. We took a little bit of a break, man. Just a little bit of a break, just to
I don't blame you,
do some
man.
things, but,
I'm taking a break too pretty soon here with how stuff is going. So I follow you on Twitter because you have one of the most reasonable voices of all Bears Twitter, and you have expressed your concerns about Mike McCarthy being potentially the next head coach of the Chicago Bears. So please tell me why.
Well, I mean, I just look at it and it was a wonderful interview that you did with David Howman.
Thank you.
Real nice. And I understand some of the points that he brought up and things like that. I push back on a little bit of it though. You know what I mean? And some of the things that are concerning to me is, how Mike McCarthy is as a leader. Is this game past him? You know what I mean? It's been, and I mentioned it before, it's been, 15 years. I mean, we lean in on what he did 2 decades ago. And I understand that, he does have cachet when it comes to winning some games. He's won some games, even in Dallas. He's won some games, 12-win season, things like that. Those are things that are good. But in my opinion, you have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the talent the department in both Green Bay and Dallas. Right? You had Hall of Fame quarterback. You know what I mean? And you got Dak Prescott, who's an All-Pro and a Pro Bowler and threw for 5,000 yards before. All these accolades that they have. They have tons of weapons on offense and defense. They have, they draft pretty well in Dallas usually. You have lots of Pro Bowlers down there. So what's missing? What's missing? And to me, it's leadership, motivating voice in the locker room, and being able to incite guys to give their best, to give their all. you look at the teams, and in my opinion, Dallas has been a team that's undisciplined at times, right? They're lax on the field. They don't really they don't have focus sometimes. These are all the issues that the Bears have. So when we're talking about the Bears, and I think about, okay, McCarthy, is he the right guy to change the culture in Chicago? I just don't see it being so easy for him to do, you know?
Yeah, frankly, I was a little surprised that David was so complimentary about the leader of men part of it, because there have been reports, and David would know better than I do, but there seems to have been some reports of discipline issues with some of the players. There's some really strong personalities over there in Dallas, and but at the same time, it's like Micah Parsons was asked probably a month or two ago a question about Mike McCarthy's future. And he kind of blew it off and said, I'm not worried about his future. I'm worried about the future of, and then he named off some players who are close to the end of their careers and said,
Right.
I'm hoping that they get to the Super Bowl, you know?
Right.
So, and now, Micah, to reverse side, he did say it was devastating that we were losing him. So, I don't know how to read the situation down in Dallas, but man, for many years it seems like it has been kind of rocky, right?
Yeah, it's been I think it's been difficult in certain areas, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about being a leader of men. We're talking about, motivating, getting guys to give their all, and kind of stay locked in, focused, and this and that and the third. And like you said, you do have personalities. I'm not saying that it's the easiest culture there in Dallas, because the ownership, right? Jerry Jones kind of fans the flames on that, right? He wants his players to be out there and talking, and no press is bad press to Jerry Jones. We know that, right?
Yep.
So he's not it's not something that the organization or franchise frowns upon, but it's probably something that you got to push back on with him. Now, I also go back to how I see his demeanor on the sidelines. You know what I mean? We're talking about more of the same. That's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see more of the same. You think about the coaches that we've had. Nagy was a little bit fiery. You know what I mean? At times he'd get hyped up a little bit. Tressman was, Tressman. You know what I mean? you look at Eberflus. Eberflus is Eberflus. He's not really, there's no motivational speeches. There's no, hey, I'm about to run through a wall because my coach is hyped. You look at guys like Dan Campbell that can motivate. That team took on the identity of that coach. There's people that laughed at him when he said, hey, we're going to be biting kneecaps and things like that. But you know what? It worked. It worked. You know what I mean? So that team has taken on that identity. They have a swagger, and it's all because of what Dan Campbell has done. So when I see Mike McCarthy, I'm not knocking him play calling or whatever. You know what I mean? That's what he likes to do. I also believe that he can put together a decent staff. You know what I mean? Like he's a smart guy who's like, hey, I'm not a defensive dude. Dan Quinn, come on in here and do your thing. You know what I mean? And he gave him the keys. So that's cool. But once again, like I said, man, you got to have that culture. You got to have that culture setter. And I just don't see him being that guy. You know what I mean? I don't see that. From his demeanor on the sidelines to interviews to Hard Knocks, when they were on Hard Knocks, it was kind of, it's just like whatever. You know what I mean? Type of situation.
I'm telling you, man, I listened to David and I said, oh, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. Now I'm listening to you. Yeah, hell no. Hell no.
It's tough, man. It's tough.
It is tough. And of course, the deciding thing is the stuff that we don't have access to is the actual interviews and asking them the questions. Who are you going to bring into your coaching staff? What's your offense going to look like? What's your development plan for Caleb? And on and on and on. One of the things that has come up often is that he will install a very simple offense for Caleb. It will be 1 read, 2 read, run. Scramble, do the scramble drill. Do you think that's appropriate for Caleb, or would you like to see something much more sophisticated for him?
No, with sophistication, to me in football, it comes time, right? So,
Hmm.
uh, Caleb is in the situation where, let's be real. You know what I mean? I'm a realist when I talk about Caleb, and people get mad at me sometimes, and they think I hate the dude. I don't hate Caleb. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he has skills. He has everything that you need to be a great quarterback in this league, and he's got a live arm. It's nasty, right? So I give him credit for that. But there are deficiencies in this game that he has not addressed and has never been addressed in college because your talent level is so high. So if your talent level is so high, it's never addressed. You got 3 years of bad habits in college, and then you come to the pros and you got under Shane Waldron. You're in this chaotic situation in your rookie season. That's another year of bad habits, right? So now whoever comes in has to break all that down, you might say. In my opinion, you got to kind of get rid of the bad habits, stop him from doing some of the things that he does, you know what I mean? And try to help him develop into an NFL type of quarterback. You're a quarterback, but
Right.
are you NFL elite? That's what we want to get to, right? So we want to help him reach that goal. That's my thing. So I want the best guy in there to reach that goal. Now, if he comes in and he simplifies things, to me, I think that bodes well for Caleb because you can only work on certain things at one time, right? You got a
Hmm.
long career ahead of you. You know what I mean? And I hate Aaron Rodgers. We hate him because he was with Green Bay, of course, right?
Hmm.
But something that he said a long time ago sticks to me. And he said it, I think, when Justin Fields was here and he was a rookie. He told Justin Fields, don't work on everything at one time. Work on this off season. Work on this off season, and you just stack things up. You know what I mean? When you try to fix everything at once, you can't. It's impossible. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because this game is too complicated. You know what I mean for that. So anybody that thinks that you can just fix everything at one time, no, you can't. It's going to be something that you got to kind of work on. There's got to be a steady progress. So if you're simplifying the game, you know, and he gets it from his days in San Francisco, I believe. I'm talking about Mike McCarthy now. He
Hmm.
gets it from those days. That was a simplistic type of game, right? They the West Coast offense is short throws. It's is reading things quickly, getting the ball into guys' hands and let them do work and do damage. Slant patterns, you know what I mean? All those types of things that we've seen Green Bay run for years, right? I used to think back to those days when it was Aaron Rodgers, and they would throw slants, and it was like they would slant Chicago to death. And it's like,
Hmm.
why are y'all not stopping that? You know what I mean? So
Sure.
it's those are things that can simplify it. And for a young quarterback, I think you need to do that. And then you open things up to him as years go on. You know?
Samo, who was my guest last week, says he's supporting McCarthy. He says, I agree Caleb has a lot of deficiencies and he has to have an accomplished coach to help him clean up his game. So, what do you think? Do you think that McCarthy will have success if he brings in this kind of simplified offense? Or do you think that because there's so much innovation going on with offenses and defenses that have seen this McCarthy style offense for so long, they got so much tape. Do you think it's going to be so easy to stop Caleb in the Bears offense?
That was one of the things that they said when he was on his way out of Green Bay, right? That the offense had
Mhm.
become stale and
Yep.
everybody was kind of prepared for it, and it was easy to attack and kind of shut down. And so that is a concern. It can be a concern, and that's what I talked about. I spoke about that a little bit as well, not on this show, but previously, where you look at what McCarthy's doing, and you wonder, has the game passed him by? Right?
Hmm.
Some of these long tenured coaches sometimes they get stuck in their ways, and it's like, no, I'm going to do it this way because this is my bread and butter. This is how it is. They don't evolve sometimes.
Right.
And so that's why new coaches come along. You know what I mean? That's why you
Mhm.
get all these hot young coaches, and it's like, we got to go to this because the game has evolved. The game is much different than it is, than it was 15, 20 years ago. When they went to the Super Bowl in 2010, it's a totally different game now in 2025.
Mhm.
So those are concerning issues as well. You know what I mean? Can
Absolutely.
he can he develop and evolve and do some things differently than what he normally wants to do? Just mix stuff in there so you're not predictable.
Right.
That's the biggest thing. So it is a concern. I'm not sure if if he'll be able to do that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not really. I think it's past his. The game has passed him. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
He's still a good coach, and if you give him a litany of talent, then yeah, he'll make some things happen. But if he doesn't have that talent, in my opinion, it becomes real dry. It becomes real messed up. So
Interesting point. I worked in business communications for about 15 years, and one of the things that we talked about was that in business, if you fail to innovate, the competition that starts very innovative is eventually going to pass you by. But if sometimes you are leading the pack and you start to innovate, you might innovate incorrectly, and it could spell your demise even quicker. So all that to say that somebody like Ben Johnson almost makes better sense, because we've seen what his innovative play calling and schematic style is doing for the Detroit Lions. Now, I have always said that he's not bringing that offensive line with him. I mean, he's got a stellar offensive line. In terms of the offensive weapons, their backfield is far superior to ours, but hopefully that can be corrected in the offseason. What are your overall thoughts about Ben Johnson?
I think Ben Johnson is a good coach too. The only thing that concerns me about Ben Johnson, and I'll start with that before I give him his praise. I'm gonna knock him down a couple pegs, and people get on. You know what I mean? Like I'm just speaking what I see, man. You know what I mean? That's all I do.
That's
So,
right here, baby.
in my opinion, I look at Ben Johnson and I say, okay, he's once again, this is a guy that's littered with talent. He's got talent everywhere, right? Running game, offensive line, probably the best in the NFL. And they're not young offensive linemen. These are guys that were even there before Dan Campbell took off. You know what I mean? These are guys that were real good players anyway. So you got veterans, 7-8 years on the offensive line, and they know what they're doing. So you got that. You got Amon St. Brown. You got Sam Laporta. You got, all these weapons. You got everything. And there's been no adversity, in my opinion, right? You had Jared Goff, he threw 5 interceptions one game, and it is what it is. So that's my thing. How does he adjust? Is there any adjustments that need to really be made for this team yet? And to me, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen him have to adjust things. Maybe somebody goes down with injuries and you're hobbled a little bit. Now you have to lean more heavily on the run, or you have to do this, or you have to change up the game plan. Pretty much he can go out there and do whatever he wants because they've been in a good situation. And that's the difference between those two. Now, what he's doing, everybody loves him. The players talk highly of him. His coaching staff. I mean, everybody is on board with what he's doing. So that's hard to pass on. That's hard to say, you know what, I don't want it. So you see the innovation that he brings to the table. He's a nice balance because he doesn't forget about the run. Some of these coaches get pass happy and they just pass, and they forget about the run. He got 2 studs in the backfield. He's like, I'm going to use these guys. These are workhorses. I'm going to use them, and I'm going to run the ball, and I'm going to pass the ball. And then you make Jared Goff even look better than what he has. He's thrown for 4,000 yards. Guys are still running the ball a lot too, though. So that's the thing. And you don't have this stagnant offense there where it seems like it's hard to move the ball. That's what the Bears are dealing with. They have a situation where it's like an arduous task to just move the ball 5 yards sometimes. You know what I mean? It's like everybody's having it's crazy. So, you don't see that with Ben Johnson. So you got to give him his credit where it's due. But like I said, I just haven't seen the adversity. If I see the adversity and he overcomes it, then, I'd be fully on board. But I can't be 100% there because it's just like, man, when everything is perfect, everything is perfect. Everything works out great. But what happens when there is some issues? What happens when you don't have this dope offensive line? You know what I mean? How are you going to call games then? We don't know. You see what I'm saying? We really don't know because he hasn't been in that situation.
I hear you. Dan, do you know who Don Burr is?
Yeah.
All right. Well, he crashes our podcast all the time, so he's challenging you now. He says Ben Johnson wasn't littered with talent You laughed at Gibbs, the first round pick. St. Brown, the fourth round pick, was a throwaway. Ben Johnson, first time offensive coordinator. I know he's just trolling us. He's just trolling us. But I get what his point is that Ben Johnson wasn't always considered a shoo-in. I mean, if I remember his climb, he was started as a wide receivers coach, wasn't it? And was quarterbacks coach or some position coach with the Lions, and then got his opportunity to be an offensive coordinator. But you make a great point. He has not faced the big-time adversity that he will face day one with the Chicago Bears. Day one. I have a list again that I swiped away from ESPN of all the candidates. Let me put it up on the screen here. Let's go one by one. What do you think about Thomas Brown? What did he prove anything to you that at the very least he deserves serious consideration as the offensive coordinator?
I can't say serious consideration. I would say Thomas Brown did what he as best he could in the situation that he was given. It's hard to go from, passing game coordinator, not really the coordinator, right? Just passing game coordinator, maybe an assistant, you might say, pretty much under Shane Waldron, to head coach in 17 days. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's a hard task to take on. So he handled it as well as he could, but I don't really think he's ready for this, especially the Bears situation. I really don't think he's ready for it.
And I agree with a lot of what you said, but I do think that if Caleb in that end of the season exit interview said, I love Thomas. If he came back in some position, I would love to work with him to have that continuity. And if the next head coach said, Thomas Brown as the offensive coordinator, let me talk to him. I might be able to work with him and at the very least bring him back as the QB coach or something like that if he doesn't get a better offer elsewhere.
Yeah, those things are possible. Definitely.
Yeah. The next name is Pete Carroll. It's hard for me to say it with a straight face.
No. Pete Carroll was campaigning for the job. Wasn't he like a couple of weeks ago? I mean, 4 or 5 weeks ago, he's really campaigning like, hey, I want this job. I want a job. And it's like, nah, Pete, man, I respect what you've done in the NFL and things like that, but it's been definitely past your prime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing, And Caleb said in the St. Brown podcast, I want a coach who's going to be with me for the next 15 to 20 years.
Exactly.
Pete Carroll may not even be alive in 5 years. So
he might not.
Hard pass. I mean, he has some positives about him, but overall, no, thank you.
No.
We're moving on to the next guy. Aaron Glenn.
Aaron Glenn is a guy that I do like. And the reason that I like Aaron Glenn is for some of the same reasons that I was talking about Ben Johnson, right? He's done very well with as a defensive coach. You listen to his speeches and what he talks about in press conferences and what he does. He's got guys that have bought into what he's trying to do and accomplish on the defensive end. Now, what I say about Ben Johnson, lack of adversity that hit him, right? This guy was hit with a lot of adversity. You got your defensive tackle gone. You got your best pass rusher gone. You got your middle linebacker out. You got several cornerbacks that are down, and they're just plugging new guys in, plugging another guy in, pick a guy up off the street, plug him in. You know what I mean? That's what they were doing. And he's making the game plans and the coverage schemes and everything simplistic, and he's helping these guys to understand it, and they're coming in and they're picking it up right away. So he's doing something right when it comes to teaching what he wants done on the football field, right? The game plans and play calling and things like that. So he's overcome some of that adversity. That's something that I've seen from him. That's why I like him. You know what I mean? I harken back to a couple of situations. They go on the road. They're on the road. This is a road game. Jared Goff throws 5 interceptions. There's no way that you should win that game. And they won. And they won the game. And largely because that defense kept them in the game. So, when you have situations, and that's a banged up, hurt defense too. So, things like that stand out to me because it's like, okay, I see this guy. He can adjust. He can navigate some difficult situations. That's what you need in a coach. You don't need. We had Matt Nagy where he was trying to force, guys to do the things that they could not do. They weren't equipped to do, and he wanted to force it on them. This is a guy that kind of can change things and roll with the flow, dealing with what you have and getting the best out of those players. That's what I like to see.
He addressed some questions about the job search and so forth. He was very, very impressive again in his press conferences. He was asked here what he's learned during this process.
How do you feel this year prepared you better to be a head coach?
Man, that's a good question. Well, you know what? I'm going to go back to 21 and going into this year. Because we started, as we all know, 3-13-1. And then the following year, we go 1-6. But the thing that I could remember that sticks to me is our head coach, our coordinators, our coaches, we never wavered from the things that we believed in. I think that's a strong statement when you stand in front of a group of men and say, this is how you have to win. And we believe that you win this way. And those guys believed it too. And then once our owner had an interview and she backed everybody, all the coaches, that we have a formula to win and it's this close. And from then on, I think we went 8-2 into now. So here's what it taught me. We know as a staff how to build a winner. And now we know how, as a staff, how to sustain winning. So we want to continue to do that, as long as we're all here. So to answer your question, building it from the beginning and sustaining it from here on out.
Certainly has a commanding presence, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He does. You can tell he's got something. He commands the room. You're going to pay attention when he's talking. It's not word salad. He's actually saying something. You know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah. This is a real quick one. He was asked about the whole, the league is turning towards offensive coordinators. This is a great response.
Here's the one thing that I would say about myself. I'm a coach. I just happen to be on defense. I understand the offense just as well as a number of people. So if you're going to hire me, you're going to hire a coach. You're not going to hire a defensive coach. I'm going to talk to the offense just as much as I'm going to talk to the defense.
If I'm interviewing him and he says that, the next question is, how much do you want?
I mean, it makes sense, man. That's an impressive answer. It's a good answer because that's what you want. You want a coach. You want a guy that's what these guys do. They're coaching guys. And if you understand, and it's the truth. I've been telling people this for a long time because I don't believe in the, hey, we got to have an offensive guy if we have a quarterback. We have to have a defensive guy if we're established. We can get a defensive guy. I think at the end of the day, a defensive coach can be just as beneficial as an offensive coach. Think about it like this. If you go into the meeting and you say, okay, tell me as a defensive coordinator, what would you do to take away or negate what we want to do offensively? Because we have to know the offense. To be a defensive guy, you study the offense all day. That's what you do. So if you're studying that offense, if you're studying players, you know their tendencies, you know what they do, you know how they stance, you know what I mean? There are little things that they give away. I mean, they use a clicker and watch TV, game film for 14, 15, 16 hours sometimes just to pick up, hey, this guy puts his foot back, you know what I mean? Before he throws to the left side, you know what I mean? Or whatever the case may be. He flinches, he flexes his hand when this happens. You know what I mean? And all those things are added into it. That's the sign of a good coach, though, when he can answer that question like that, though.
Absolutely. Love it. Let's move on our list here. We talked about Ben Johnson. What do you think about Mike Kafka?
Man,
sorry for that.
I'm like you. I'm laughing at it. It's you know what I mean. This is I guess the Bears are kicking their tires on some of these guys, right? That's pretty much all it is. I don't really have that much to say about Mike Kafka, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think it's just hey, it's just another guy to interview.
Yeah. Well, are you in agreement that that might be a flawed way of finding your candidate? You know, before you came on, or maybe just as you came on, I was telling the audience there are other things Poles needs to do. We're 49 days away from free agency. We're 100 days away from the NFL draft. There are background checks to do on these candidates. You should be talking to other people who have worked with them. Try to do some background stuff via players and stuff. Tons and tons and tons of stuff to do. Mm-hmm. Yet you're interviewing Drew Petzing and Mike Kafka. What's up with that?
I don't know, man. Like, and that is a question. I at the beginning when they first started naming these guys, and before it got to a list of like 20, 25, I don't know what it is now. It's somewhere around 20 or 25, somewhere around there. But when they were, it was like 12, 14, 15, I'm like, okay, they're doing their due diligence. You know what I mean? I'm thinking to myself, like, they didn't bring anybody. They only brought Caleb in, and everybody was mad at them because they didn't bring another quarterback in and talk to him at all. So now they're like overcompensating for the mistakes or the sins that they made before, right? So that's what I was thinking about it as. And now it's become to the point where it's like, okay, this is kind of nauseating at this time. Let's wrap this up. Let's get moving. Some of these guys are not legit candidates. You know what I mean? Let's move on.
Yeah, I like the approach in many instances. I like the approach of widening the net and talking to a lot of people. But I think that at this particular time, when you're a general manager and you're making your second head coach hire, you should have a pretty good idea of what you're looking for in terms of a leader. Do you want Caleb with a brand new head coach, with somebody who hasn't had head coaching experience? Do you want somebody to come in and change the culture? And do you think that people like Mike Kafka and Drew Petzing have any experience at changing the culture? I don't think so. That's why I think a more, not microscopic search, but a much more focused search in terms of the qualities that you're looking for. And now you want to talk to the guy about, to confirm those qualities and also how he's going to implement them with the Chicago Bears and the players that we currently have. Yeah. All right, let's move on to we talked about Drew Petzing. Please tell me you don't have anything more to add on Petzing. Okay. Ron Rivera. A lot of people are throwing around Ron Rivera's name, even at the very least for a defensive coordinator position. What do you think?
I think Ron Rivera is a good coach. I think he's done some good things, right? As far as development of quarterbacks, not so much. I mean, you had Cam Newton, of course, and he used Cam Newton as a battering ram. Kind of shortened his career a little bit, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. That's just what happened. But that's what he was dealt out there. That's the cards that he had. But man, I wouldn't say Ron Rivera is like the most ideal candidate. You know what I mean? I would say you'd like to have somebody that was more accomplished. He did get to a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? We will give him credit for that. So that was nice to do. But once again, I mean, I think Ron is a good quarterback. I mean, good coach in certain ways, but is he a head coach? I don't know. I don't know if you want him to be the head coach of the Bears. Maybe. Yeah. A lot of people would like it because of the nostalgia factor and all of that type of stuff but at this point we're past that stuff. You know what I mean? Right. We can't focus on nostalgia and trying to create, what we once had type situations.
I totally agree with what you're saying. He deserves an interview because he was a member of the '85 Bears, because he was a former coach, defensive coordinator with the Bears and so forth. But the evidence is in. He has not done anything in the last several years. And you talk to the people in Washington, there is nobody, I think, currently on the Commanders squad that was drafted by Ron Rivera. And he was gone just a year ago. Yeah. I mean, the first round cornerback, the thin guy with the long arms, he's gone. A number of other players are gone. So I think Ron Rivera's prime is done. He should look for a good broadcasting job.
Absolutely.
David Shaw is a guy that has always intrigued me, and then he disappeared, and I learned why. But what do you think about David Shaw's possibility of going to the second round of interviews?
I think it's possible with David Shaw that he gets another round of interviews. I think he's got some things that he brings to the table that's really good for the Bears. That can be good, right? And I think he's well respected too. Not
Hmm.
only will he be well respected like in the organization, but I think in NFL circles around the league,
I
he's kind
agree.
of a respected guy. Um, so when you have that going for you, you got that kind of cachet. That's always good. That's always nice to have. So I think yeah, definitely possibly give him a second round of interviews, maybe an in-person interview, whatever the case, and see what he's talking about. Definitely a guy that you would want to speak to, and that it goes a long way because even if you don't hire a guy like David Shaw, what he brings to the table and what he talks about, you can use that to figure out who you want, right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
know some qualities in David Shaw that I like. There are some things that I like. Let me find this other candidate who may be more qualified and has some of those qualities too, though.
Hmm.
So you know what I mean. That's the type of guy
Absolutely.
that David Shaw is, in my opinion.
Yeah. I could see him potentially being employed by the Bears in some capacity. Right now might not be the best time for him to take over the head coaching job for the Chicago Bears based on the particular circumstances with the
Right.
team right now. But he definitely has leadership qualities. He has a lot of
Mhm.
people I've seen misstate that he's been away from football. That's not correct. He's been employed by, is it the Browns that he works for?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So he has kept in the game, and he left, I believe, the game because there was some health issues with his family member.
Mhm.
So that's what drove him away. It wasn't that he was,
Right.
tired of the game or anything like that. He's definitely an intriguing candidate and someone who I wouldn't mind seeing at Hall in some capacity.
Absolutely.
Mike Vrabel, he's gone.
Gone.
Anthony Weaver. Anthony Weaver, interesting guy. I went and saw some of his press conference, deep voice guy, like
Mhm.
Barry White style,
Mhm.
and I'm
Mhm.
like, damn, and if he's not the coach, he should be the PA announcer at
Right.
least.
Right.
So, any thoughts on Weaver?
Once again, I think Anthony Weaver, not gonna say he's a bad guy or a bad candidate or anything like that. I don't think he's ready for it, but he does, like you said, you have some qualities when you sometimes just your presence, who you are, you're commanding, you know what I mean, being
Hmm.
able to command the room, like we talked about with Aaron Glenn, just the ability to stand up there and have a presence about you. You know,
Hmm.
it goes a long way sometimes, excuse me. And that might be the case with Anthony Weaver as well. Like, you look at things like the deep voice, and this is a big guy. This is a guy that can, he can hold his own type situation. Sometimes that goes over well in locker rooms as well. So, those are things, but you really focused on the meat and potatoes with guys, right? And I don't feel like he's quite ready. Maybe at some point he will be, but just not right now. I wouldn't say. I'm not going to say
Arthur,
he's not a legit candidate. I think he is a legit candidate, but
yeah.
I just think he falls a little bit short.
I agree with you. Arthur Smith interviewed today, the offensive coordinator with the Steelers. I thought he was going to work wonders with Justin. I was
Mhm.
disappointed that Justin's passing game didn't improve much.
Right.
It did improve, but not as much as I was hoping to see out of Justin. But what do you think about Arthur Smith, who was his offensive coordinator this year?
Yeah, I think Arthur Smith is a good coach. I think he's a real good offensive coordinator as well. I think in Pittsburgh you got a lot of moving pieces, and it's really hard for somebody to kind of flourish there. You're dealing with when you brought Justin Fields in, I just look at their wide receiving core and I'm like, man, bro, it leaves a lot to be desired. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You got George Pickens, that's the top guy, and he's got his issues where he's not focused all the time. He's not
Right.
locked in. You know what I mean? And then you got these other guys, and they're just all the receivers that you're throwing to are twos and threes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you have no one. And
Hmm.
and I tell people all the time, man, like if you're trying to throw the ball and you want to throw for 4,000 yards or 3,500 yards, you gotta have a dog out there that's gonna get 12 to 1,500 yards receiving, and they
Hmm.
don't have one of those guys. So I don't think anybody would go in and set the world on fire from the quarterback position in Pittsburgh anytime soon. until
I
they
hear
get
you.
some more weapons out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Arthur Smith, I think he's a good coach. I think there are things that he can do, and I think there are things that he can help Caleb with. I think he will be good for Caleb. So it'd be nice to see, him possibly get another round of interviews as well.
I'm not as high on him as you are, but I
Mhm.
know Danny Shimon, who is our game and draft analyst here at the Barroom, has liked Arthur, and so I might be in the minority on Arthur Smith. Now, requested interviews are, let's start with Joe Brady over at Buffalo. I like this guy and think he's got some possibilities, although he may not have the amount of experience I'd like to see. What are your thoughts on Brady?
Yeah, I think Brady is a good guy. I think he's a good coach as well. When you have your players and they badmouth you so that people don't want to be interested in you, that's a good thing. And I think that's what's been happening with Joe Brady a little bit in Buffalo because they don't want him going anywhere. Same thing with Ben Johnson in Detroit. They're bad mouthing him like, oh man, he doesn't know what he's doing. We know it's a joke or whatever, but
Right.
and that's the mentality because hey, once you get a good coordinator, or you get somebody in there, a coach that believes in you, and you feel and you vibe with them, you don't want them going anywhere because the next guy might not be what's needed. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I think he's a good one too. That's a nice candidate possibly.
Let's move on to Matt Campbell, the Iowa State coach. I was surprised to see his name up here, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not sure why. You know what I mean? I don't want to go that route. I don't want to go the route of getting a guy from college to come and coach. And then I'm sitting here thinking about it. I'm like, man, I'm Iowa State, and then I think back to when the Bulls. You know what I mean? I know that it's not but the Bulls hired somebody from Iowa State. I'm just thinking these things, and I'm like, no, I don't want. Maybe.
I remember who it was. Jerry Krause brought in Tim
Yeah,
Floyd.
Tim Floyd. Yeah, yeah. I was like, it just leaves
That's
a
bad.
bad taste in my mouth. So it's like, hey, maybe that's not fair to that gentleman, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's a little early. A head coach, no, he should come to the NFL as a coordinator or
Yeah,
position coach and work his way up.
exactly.
He took a lot of heat because he said publicly, my job as head coach is not to worry about championships. My job is to worry about the program and developing young men and so forth. And so immediately, people were all over him on social media. Wait a minute, you don't care about winning? So it's taken out of context, but
Yeah.
it was not a good look for him. All right, Brian Flores, probably the most interesting name of all of these is Brian Flores, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on him?
And I think he's a good coach, right? I think he is. He definitely has some situations in Miami. He said, she said, going back and forth. He hated Tua. He disrespected him, bullied him almost. You know what I mean? You might say, was hard on him. It was hard on him. And then there's also, he shot back. Hey, y'all wanted me to lose. Y'all tried to get me to tank and blah blah blah. He sued them, sued the NFL. So it's like a lot of situations that are going around, and it's a lot of people that want Flores, and a lot of people that believe in him. I'm not saying he's a bad coach because I think he's good. I think he's really, really good. Um, I just don't see a team giving him a head coaching opportunity yet. Not yet. They may interview him. They may kick the tires and things like that. But the NFL is like you know what I mean. This ownership, these owners, their fraternity. You sued one of their colleagues basically, and it's
Exactly.
like I don't see them forgiving that so
Hmm.
soon. Maybe in the future they do, but I just don't see them forgiving that and giving him that opportunity. And if he gets hired on somebody's staff, that's a whole different story as a coordinator and things like that. That's cool. But and I'm just saying is that he deserves it because I don't really know what happened. It's he said, she said, right?
Right.
But I know how these owners work, and they're not really, they don't just forgive that easily, in my opinion.
Hmm. Um, you're absolutely right, and I don't think anyone is denying some of the things that happened. Like with Tua, went
Right.
on a podcast and spoke very bluntly, about how he demeaned them to the point where Tua was like he lost all his confidence.
Yeah.
And Flores replied to that in a press conference and admitted that he made mistakes without going into the details like Tua did. He admitted, I've grown a lot. I've made some mistakes in the past, and that's behind me. I'll be a better coach as a result of that. And so that was heartening to hear. But you're absolutely right. The baggage that he's currently carrying is so much that, George McCaskey, I don't know if you ever saw that Saturday Night Live skit where Phil Hartman is playing Ronald Reagan, and he's doing the Ronald Reagan, I'm not that bright and so forth. And as soon as the doors close, get that SWAT team going over to and so George McCaskey might be like that, where he's Mr. Humble, they make the decisions and so forth. But when the doors are closed, George is saying, that motherfucker better not step inside house. So I'm with you. I don't think he's going to get hired because of the lawsuits and stuff. So we'll see. Next on the list is Cliff Kingsbury, who had an interview for the OC job last year, and it didn't go particularly well because he didn't want to answer any questions about it at a press conference several weeks ago. But he has experience working with Caleb Williams when he was an advisor at USC. What are your thoughts on Kingsbury?
I mean, this is a crazy one for me because when you have a guy that you interviewed last year for the coordinator position, he gets passed over for the coordinator job, and now you come back again and do this. I guess the Bears can say, look, that was Eberflus, man. You know what I mean? He's out of here, blah blah blah, and sorry about what happened, but I don't see how that marriage would work. Where's the trust lie? You know what I mean? Yeah. Is it, because whatever you do, GM, coach, Caleb, tied together, man. So they're tied together. So what is that trust factor going to look like from Cliff Kingsbury's perspective and their perspective as well as Bears, polls even, is there going to be complete trust in each other? I just don't see it happening. Maybe there are, doing an interview for, maybe it's a legit thing, but I just don't see how you could have that trust right now because of how things worked last year.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I didn't look at it quite that way, but yeah, and Kingsbury has just not had a stellar record as a head coach in finishing seasons. If you look back at all his seasons, like, wherever he's been a head coach, most of the seasons, in the second half of the season, there's losing streaks, and it just seems like opposing teams figure out his offense. So I'm not a big fan, but I'm glad they're talking to him. As awkward as it's going to be, I don't think
at least he's a legitimate one, right? He's not like the other candidate. There's some that are not legit candidates, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Todd Monken is a legit candidate, and I would say he's on my top 3 list. The work that he has done in Baltimore is stellar. I would love to be a fly in the wall during that interview because I'd love to hear his ideas on how he would develop Caleb Williams. Your thoughts on Todd?
Yeah, I think that's a legit candidate as well. Anytime you can pluck somebody from like an organization like that who has been successful too, he's been sitting around watching that success. So that stuff rubs off on you. Iron sharpens iron, right? So when you have that type of situation, and this guy he knows football, of course, right? He's good at his job. It's not like he's just sitting around gaining information from everybody else, but he's actually doing things. Very, very good candidate. I like to see what happens. Like you said, I want to be a fly on the wall in that situation as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a good candidate. And an organization like Baltimore that's ran the right way, they draft well, they hire good coaches, their guys are bought in, they have a culture, they have an identity, and they don't deviate from it. Maybe this guy knows some things, you know what I mean, about how to establish and build that type of culture here in Chicago.
Are you watching Hard Knocks, the AFC North version, in-season version?
I have been watching it. I've missed the last couple of episodes though, but I need to catch up on it definitely.
Yeah, well, check out the last episode. It's the Ravens previewing the Ravens Steelers game, and man, that was just superbly done. NFL Films, kudos again. Man, there's a couple of sequences with Todd talking to the team in the theater setting, the classroom setting, and he commands the room. He over that offense, he definitely commands it. And listening to him talk, I'm sure he will have no problem at all commanding the entire room. And he could be a guy that could really jumpstart this Bears offense like on day one, game one of the 2025 season. We could see 25 points plus out of the Chicago Bears with the Todd Monken. That's how much I like the guy. I'm convinced he's good. Now, any thoughts on any other candidates that the Bears have not announced? Like, you got
since they're casting such a wide net, if they come in to view me, I'd love to. You know what I mean?
You'd make a valuable candidate, man, and just listening to you talk. Hey, brother, how much longer can you stick with us?
I can stick around for a little bit. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Johnny Santucci was supposed to be here and do his Bear State of Affairs, but he's either running late or he's shooting another porno. I don't know what's going on. Do you know Johnny Santucci? He's got a history in the porn business. Yeah, those are not the kind of porn movies you see. I can tell. All right, let me do this. I want to play this video and get your comments on it. It's 4 minutes long, and this is what the national media is saying about Mike McCarthy. So we'll come around full circle on the Mike McCarthy thing and get your thoughts on what people like Danny Parkins, Colin Cowherd, Louis Riddick, and a number of other people. It's 4.5 minutes long. Here it comes.
Okay.
Now, I actually prefer Mike McCarthy in Chicago over Ben Johnson. That doesn't mean anything negative about Ben Johnson. Number one, Mike McCarthy is a great leader. I think we can establish, or that's been established. Number two, he's been there and done that. Number three, he's got a track record of developing quarterbacks in structure.
Mike McCarthy, to me, becomes the most likely successor to Matt Eberflus. I don't think that he's somebody that is going to inspire a lot of people. I think it's an uninspiring choice, but it is understandable given where the Bears are.
And when you think about a place like the Chicago Bears with Caleb Williams, someone like Thomas Brown, who it did seem as the offensive coordinator unlocked something in Caleb Williams early, could be a guy that returns there. So you at least keep some sort of relationship he's had previously. But when you think about Mike McCarthy, he has proven that when going into new places, he understands how to settle an organization and move forward.
I believe in Mike, and I think he's a great coach. And, anybody that's going to end up with him is going to be lucky to have him.
What makes Mike intriguing is head coaching experience with an awful lot of success. I think you look at the way he's run his programs, you don't see a heck of a lot of BS drama. The players, the operation seems buttoned up.
I think Mike has so many of the qualities and the characteristics and the traits that you want in a head coach in terms of leadership, discipline, accountability. He can create a culture and an environment that's conducive to winning. He can hold players accountable. He can have those honest conversations.
Mike McCarthy is safe, will right the ship, will make you viable. A lot of owners, Cleveland Browns, thought Freddie Kitchens was the next thing. I don't trust the Bears on a young whiz kid hire. So McCarthy to me feels safe.
I think that you should dare to be great. Could you do worse than Mike McCarthy? Obviously, of course. But it feels like the John Fox hire to me, which the Bears did.
Yeah.
That restore credibility. He's got a ring. He'll bring in a culture. There aren't many coaches who have even gotten 3 opportunities in the NFL, much less been successful on their 3rd opportunity in the NFL. So I find the hire, if that is what happens, to be very, very uninspiring.
It's not Cliff Kingsbury walking in with Jaden Daniels, right? Who's basically sculpting an offense to that player. McCarthy's going to come in and run his system. You saw what he did with Dak when he pushed Kellen Moore out. That's going to be the system he runs. And so I'm not sure that's top end for Caleb.
And I mean, and that system was really successful with Dak Prescott. But I generally just hate the idea of trying to hire a head coach for the quarterback. Like, that's not, you hire a head coach for the team and then build the team in the way that you want.
Look, there's a lot of other things that still need to be fixed there. And look, is Mike McCarthy now, forget his offensive system. Do you believe, though, that he could wind up taking this program overall as far as constructing a staff, making sure that he's in sync with Ryan Poles as far as how this football team looks, not just for the next year, but for the next 3 years? Look, is he the guy who you want? Does he have that kind of vision that marries up with what you want, in addition to him being good for Caleb Williams? I really don't know that, because we haven't really talked about Mike McCarthy in that vein as far as being a program builder.
Can Mike McCarthy save Caleb Williams?
I believe so. I believe Mike McCarthy is the guy that the Bears need to get for Caleb Williams. Mike McCarthy's quarterbacks are going to play good football. Mike McCarthy has got a lot of quarterbacks paid, and he's got a lot of quarterbacks that were good to play better. We talk about Brett Favre. Brett Favre had one of his best years under Coach Mike. Went 13-3. All right, went to the NFC Championship. Played really well. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, two-time MVP under Coach Mike. We know what Aaron Rodgers delivered. But I'm more on the Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn gets a contract at Seattle because of the way he looked in Mike McCarthy's offense. Whatever you want to say about the weapons around him. You go to Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush looked legit in Mike McCarthy's offense and won. And obviously, Dak Prescott was a good quarterback, but the best year he ever had was under Coach Mike McCarthy. Coach Mike McCarthy's offense, because I can look at the Dallas Cowboys offense and I could go play for them right now.
Well, a wide range of thoughts there. Dominique actually echoed what you were saying about find the coach, and it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody familiar with a quarterback whisperer. Anything stand out to you among those media clips?
Man, there were both ends of the spectrum, man. It's amazing, that it can be that wide, you know what I mean, that wide of a gap. But, some of the things that stood out, Domison, Foxworth, what he said, of course, the idea of let's hire a guy for Caleb. Man, you hire a guy for the football team. Yep. Those other 52 guys got to be coached, and developed as well, not just one guy. So I think that's an important thing. He's got to have relationship. Now, I don't think anybody will say that Mike McCarthy can establish relationships with people. I think those are all ideas that he can do. But once again, it's uninspiring. Like what was it, Perkins? I think he said it's Parkins.
Parkins.
It's an uninspiring thing. And the way I look at it, it's like more of the same. Like I said before, like, John Fox, Matt Nagy, they're nice guys. And you've always had this, this is a nice guy. It's a nice guy. And the Bears, even the fan base, to a certain degree, they were hashtagging fire Flus. And then when they fired him because he made an egregious mistake and let the clock run out, I was at that game, by the way, and cussing in the stands, going crazy. Yeah, I was livid, bro. I couldn't believe what I was watching. But they fired him the next day, and then you had the Bears fans. It was like, oh, he's a good guy. Why'd you fire him like that? And it's like, I don't care. Like he at this point in time, we got to get something going in the right direction. So I just feel like it's more the same, man. It's that same mold that the Bears try to do when they hire these coaches. They're trying to get a good guy, a nice guy, a family man. You know what I mean? Those are the things that you hear. No, man, I need cussing and spitting and getting on people, holding people accountable. Like, it started from Hard Knocks, man. I mentioned it in Hard, like, okay. And I'm not banging on the McCaskies. Hey, that's our ownership group. I get it. But, to go into the Hard Knocks thing, you set the tone for the entire season. When you said, hey, no cursing in this show, that's setting the tone. When you take the competition out of, hey, you're going to be suspended. We're pulling you off the football field if you get into a fight. Scraps are going to happen in close quarters. These guys are competing for jobs. You know what I'm saying? So if you want the competition level up, you got to have that type of coaching staff. And I think the Bears are more concerned sometimes with the optics of it. Oh, it looks good to have this. You know what I mean? No, man. Football is football. Let's stop trying to make it tag. You know what I mean? That's not what it is. This is not, everybody sit around and have a good time. You got to have uncomfortable situations. You got to have fights. You got to have disagreements. But at the end of the day, you're all working to the same goal. So if you understand that, you can respect it as men. That's the way I look at it.
As George said, I got a great guest tonight. You have been fantastic. Listen, before I let you out of here, Dan Aguirre and I originally designed this show so that we could speak frankly, not only about the Chicago Bears, uncensored about the Chicago Bears, but also about life.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put you on the spot here. On the St. Brown podcast, Caleb Williams admitted that he was nervous the first time he had sex. So the question to you then is, how nervous were you?
The first time, I was definitely nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. You know what I mean? You're going in there thinking you got something. You're trying to act like you know what you're doing, but hey, definitely nervous when you go in there for the first time. You gotta go in there and try to make it look like you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
And he's as inexperienced as you are. You know what I mean? And then you don't look like a fool stumbling around.
Yeah, like I did. I went in there thinking, man, I got to please her. So I went in there, 80 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. I was done in 30 seconds. And she was like, what?
Yeah.
So
That's
we get
the way
to bear
it
ourselves.
goes, man. First time.
Hey, brother, let people know where they can find you because you are your voice of the Chicago Bears is almost soothing. You make us think about the team and put aside our fanaticism, and I like that about you a lot. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. Let people know where they can check out your work.
Man, I appreciate it. At Danikin _DG3, of course, on Twitter and or X as it's called now. I'm also on TikTok on there, but that might be dead soon. You know what I mean? In a couple of days or whatever the case may be.
Crazy, man.
But I am on there. So, of course, the Three Kings of the Midway podcast. And then I do another podcast, which is called Following the Play. And we talk about the Bears as well on there and a couple other sports, Chicago sports mostly, Sky, Bulls, all that type of stuff. So, check me out on there. I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm usually on there every day, man. I try to keep it balanced. You know what I mean? I'm a fan too, man. So we're all and fans is short for fanatics. That's what we are, right? But we can be fanatical about our team, but we also can bring some balance to it and understanding, you know what I mean? Just a little bit of it, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Before you go, let me bring the Tooch in here because I'm sure he wants to say hi to you. Hey, Tooch, what's happening, bro?
What's up, man? How you doing, man?
I'm at Danikin's house.
That's it. That's it.
Who plays the piano?
Not Danikin. It's not me. We're both playing something.
I love it. I love it.
I like the shirt, man. Marquette you got on there.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah, my alma mater. Yep.
That's it.
Look at you. I didn't know you went to Marquette. Oh, actually, you told me. I forgot.
Nice.
Most of the shit you tell me, I forgot.
In one ear, out the other.
Exactly. Dude, you got a question for Danica before we let him loose?
I was hoping he'd stick around for a little Bear State of Affairs.
You got time?
I got time, man. Let's do it.
Oh, love it. This is the award-winning Bear State of Affairs that Tooch does every week, exclusively here on the Barroom Network. Let's Play is open. Where is it? There it is. No, that's not it. Here it is.
Everyone on this show's a dog and a loser. Not John. He's the best, except for me. Except for me.
All right, Bears State of Affairs. Yeah, I went to my man cave, my Bears man cave.
Thank you.
Well, leave Danikin to his house there.
His grand piano.
He's got some Beethoven to practice. Yeah, all right. What's happening? Barflies NFL off-season week 2. What's happening, Barflies? Well, the Bears are smack dab in the middle of a search for a new head coach. Again. And the list of prospective Bears head coaches is getting longer every day.
I'm crying.
Me too. This is what Bears fans imagine Bears management looks like going over their list of coaches, Aldo.
Yeah, I recognize some of those names.
Bunch of scrubbing.
Exactly.
I think the list is up over 20 now. It's good to see the Bears are casting a wide net, and they have locked another achievement. Yeah. But as the Bears continue the head coaching search with more interviews, people around the league are questioning if the extensive list shows problems at Hallis Hall. Problems at Hallis Hall. I can't imagine why people would think this, Aldo. Of the three men conducting this search, two of them have confessed to not being football men.
Oh, Lord.
Ay, Dios mío. I know. One of the non-football men is a meddling owner who claims to not be a meddler. 14 years that George McCaskey has been in charge of the team, the Bears have hired 3 GMs and 4 coaches. What? Not exactly a picture of stability. The other non-football man was hired to build the team a new stadium, not lead a search for a head coach. And the third man is a first-time general manager, a virtual novice whose players rejected the first head coach he hired. He's being put forward as the de facto football man of the Bears management team. But he's likely an unwitting fall guy if everything goes sideways.
I never thought about it that way. Thank you.
It's true. Yeah, we've been told that the Bears' young GM will lead this search for a new head coach. But why he's getting another chance at hiring a head coach is baffling to Bears fans. After all, the first head coach he chose presided over the 2 longest losing streaks in team history. Yeah, don't worry. Yep. This time things are different. Yeah, this time the Bears know exactly what they're looking for. They've zeroed in on a coach who is a leader of men. So why do Bears fans feel less than confident that Bears management knows what they're looking for in a head coach?
Nope.
Let me break it down for you, Aldo.
Please.
No one on the Bears management team is a leader of men.
Nope.
Why should we trust them to find a leader of men?
Nope.
Yeah, the Bears owner usually needs to hire consultants to help him find a leader of men.
A bunch of wusses finding me a leader of men.
The football man GM has admitted his roster is in need of leadership, even though the team has 8 captains. You can't make it up, Aldo. Yeah. Look, the Bears are one of 6 teams looking to fill their head coaching vacancy. If the Bears were a competent franchise, they would already have a pretty good idea of who they're going to hire as the next head coach. What they hear in the interview should not move the needle too much. They should already have talked to players and coaches whom the candidates have worked with, and the coach's resume should speak for itself. Instead, the Bears are looking for some nebulous Uber coach. The Uber coach who will change the culture of the team that the team let deteriorate. This Uber coach will also develop the team's franchise quarterback and climb up 3 spots in a 4-team division where the other 3 teams were all playoff teams.
Oh, God.
It's almost an impossible ask for this Uber coach. And this week, arguably, the most qualified head coach to come available in years was fired by the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy. Yeah, he might look like a guy who just popped in for a sandwich, but he's a proven winner.
Jesus Christ. He dipped the shit out of that beef.
He's a proven winner. Bears fans might hate the idea, but McCarthy's record speaks for itself. He's arguably as successful a coach as Mike Tomlin. In fact, McCarthy might just be in need of a better publicist.
Oh, yeah, look at that. Those numbers.
Yeah.
Yep. 12 playoff appearances, 18 seasons, 8 division titles, and a playoff winning loss record of 11-11. But, yeah, McCarthy has a career record as a head coach of 174-112, a 60% win percentage. He's coached in 22 playoff games and has a Super Bowl ring as a head coach. He's definitely the safe hire, gives the Bears the highest floor on paper. He's likely as close to the Bears management team's nebulous Uber coach that they're going to find. McCarthy will definitely build a winning culture after the disaster of Matt Eberflus. Man, although I'm tired of Bears disasters. Yeah, in fact. Everybody's probably tired of those disasters. Man. Yeah, I'm so tired of this coaching search. At this point, I'd take Ted Lasso as the Bears head coach. Yeah. At least Ted Lasso is a culture builder with a track record of winning.
That's good.
Definitely a leader of men. Yeah. You know, we rarely talk about Bears in the playoffs. It's always Bears coaching search, Bears GM search, or Bears quarterback search. It's time to change all that, Aldo. That's Bears state of affairs, man.
That's it. That's it. I love it.
We're finished talking.
Hey man, that was awesome, bro. That was good. I like that.
Yeah, it's a little. I'm running a little late. My 6-year-old is sick. I've got
man,
trying to take care of the babies upstairs and get them to bed. My wife's working, and yeah, you know, it's been I tried to get on here earlier, although.
If you need to dash and take care of the kids,
they're asleep now.
Okay. Excellent. Hey, Dan, you want to challenge Tooch on anything he said in Bear State of Affairs?
Man, a lot of what you said was straight on point, man. I mean, you said a lot of stuff on there that was really, really, it was appropriate. It was definitely there. I don't think anything stood out to me that was wrong or glaring issues there. They were all fun. It was funny, but it was true. The truth hurts sometimes, but we have to laugh in order to keep our sanity in here in Bears land.
It's hard being a Bears fan, I'll tell you, you know. Like Aldo and I always say, it gets worse before it gets worse, Danikin.
That's right. Dan, what I want you and Tooch to talk about is Ryan Poles. Does he deserve another year as general manager? Were you fine when he was not removed, or did you want to see a new GM? Because I know Tooch has a firm opinion on that. So you two guys talk about it.
Yeah. The way I looked at Ryan Poles, right, I would have been okay either way. I would have been okay if he was fired. But if you were to fire him, I always said fire him. It should have been done when Eberflus was gone. When Eberflus was gone, he should have been gone too. Because and people were saying, oh, after the season he's going to get fired. He's going to get fired Black Monday. And I was like, it's never going to happen on Black Monday because it's too much that's going into it now. You set yourself up to be behind if you fire him on Black Monday. While everybody else is looking for a coach, we're looking for a GM at that point. And they weren't going to do that at that point. Now here's the caveat though. Here's the thing to me that's going to be concerning. And I didn't like what Kevin Warren said a couple weeks back at that little stupid interview they had, right? Or Poles had his press conference, and then they, McCaskey and Kevin Warren, they answered some questions too. But here's the thing, like if you keep him this year, to me, you have to hang on to him. And you got to tie him to the next coach for the next 2 or 3 years, for the entirety of Caleb's rookie deal, the first 4 years at least, right? And the reason I say that is because if let's say the Bears hire McCarthy for whatever strange reason, they start off 1-6, what's the city going to do? What's the media going to do? Fire Poles. This was a bad hire. He messed up again. Fire him, get him up out of there. Now, if you fire him at the end of next year or you fire him midway through next year, what happens? Now you have McCarthy sitting here. He's a lame duck coach, right? Because the new GM is going to come in and he may not want McCarthy. He may want somebody else.
Pick him. Exactly.
And now you got Caleb under 2 years of bad situations, chaos, right? That's going to hurt his career. That's going to impact his career. So at this point, they're tied together, in my opinion. I think Poles, the new coach, and Caleb for the next 3 years, figure it out. If it can't be figured out then we got to get rid of all three at the same time and restart the whole process.
Yeah, we're giving Williams what's called the Trubisky Fields treatment.
So, wash, rinse, repeat, man. That's what we do.
No, if I was a head coach, I wouldn't want this guy picking my players in the draft. That's my bottom line.
Okay.
He's not good at drafting.
Okay.
I don't. We have 3 years of his drafts.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Pro Bowl players. He did get us Caleb Williams. We'll always be thankful for that because that was a no-brainer pick.
Mm-hmm.
But he did that. That's the plus. Darnell Wright, Gervon Dexter. Let me see. Who else do I like? There ain't many. Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson. Those are about the best players he's picked in 3 years. He wasted a fourth round pick, and I'm an Iowa guy. He wasted a 4th round pick on a punter. That to me is like you're fired if you draft a punter with one of my draft picks, you're gone. But I mean, I could flash up Torrey Taylor's stats. He was middle of the pack. 4th round, we need to be picking, offensive or defensive lineman, something. He can't pick a wide receiver to save his life. He trades away draft capital. You look at Chase Claypool. That was a number 32 pick overall for a guy who caught 10 passes here. Dan Feeney was a 6th round pick. A 4th round pick for Keenan Allen, who might not be here next year. Keenan Allen was great for Caleb Williams' development.
Mm-hmm.
But a 4th round pick kind of wasted. I just don't think he's a good eye for talent. You have to look at you tell me he cleaned up Ryan Pace's cap mess, but we also have the most amount of money of our salary cap invested in 5 players. Nate Davis being one of them, Montez Sweat, which cost us a 2nd round pick, and Montez is a decent player. He's a player that needs someone opposite him to be successful. And he had Yannick Ngakoue last year opposite him. And then Nate Davis, Montez Sweat, Tremaine Edmonds, Keenan Allen, and I forget who the last one is. I think it's Jalen Johnson, a player he didn't even pick. I mean, he did re-sign Jalen Johnson. That's another plus. A good ball player. But to me, his drafts have been underwhelming. I just don't have any confidence in him. His 3rd round pick was an injured Yale offensive lineman. Ivy League, not a hotbed for picking offensive linemen. I'd rather have a C player, Power 5. I'm not looking at the Ivy League for a starting offensive lineman. The kid may turn out to be good,
right,
and all, but the drafts to me have been terribly underwhelming. I mean, I flashed up some before, and it's mostly misses. We really can't have that. You have to hit, man. Look at Les Snead, a GM for the Rams, and he picked 2 players that have a ton of more sacks than Zach Pickens, who has 1.5 in the years he's been here. We could have had Byron Murphy. I forget who the other players were after him. But to me, Poles is definitely a weak link. And if I were a head coach, I wouldn't want him as my GM picking my players or having any control over my roster. To be honest, I know
that's an interesting take, bro. I get it.
If a coach says the good coaches are the ones who will say get rid of this guy because I want full control of the roster. I don't need him. The coaches who are just going to accept the job to first time head coach, give me a chance, will be I'll work with Ryan Poles. I don't care. But a sharp head coach is going to be like, I don't want this guy. picking my players or having the say over the final 53-man roster. If I was a coach, I would demand, a say in personnel, a say in the draft, and final control over a 53-man roster. Yeah, Kobe Turner's the other one. Thank you, Samo.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have had Kobe Turner or Byron Young. The guy, I don't think the guy has a good eye for talent. Man, I think of the great GMs like Ozzie Newsome, man. The guy always hit. The Steelers always hit. The Patriots were good drafters when Belichick and Scott Pioli were there. But yeah, we haven't had good drafters, and we haven't had good drafters since Gabriel and Angelo.
Yeah, I think I'll push back a little bit though, because I don't think it's as bad as what you say it is. Right? There have been some misses. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There have been some misses, but let's be real. Like when he walked into this job 3 years ago, right? He took over. Well, it's been less than 3 years, really. It's coming up on 3 years though, and this draft will be 3 years. This will be his
fourth draft. This one.
So 3 whole years though. So when you're thinking about that, the first draft, he had no first round pick. He had no second round pick, right? He had to trade back into the second round to get in there.
Had
right?
2 second rounders. Got 2 second rounders.
Yeah. And then, but he had no first round pick. So it's like hard to get talent, upper echelon, the cream of the crop, the blue chip players. It's hard to get those in 3rd, 4th, 5th round, right?
But no offensive linemen, though. It was defensive backs in that draft.
Yeah,
it would have really helped to build the trenches.
Wasn't a lot.
Yep.
I mean, that's the year that they got Braxton Jones. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's been serviceable, but in my opinion, he's a swing tackle. That's what he is, right? Yep. The Bears have tried to make him something more than what he is, but I don't think he's that.
He's Charles Leno.
Yeah, he's Charles Leno. And then you got Darnell Wright. That's a good pick in the first round.
Good pick. Yep,
right? That's a good pick.
Yep.
And then this next draft, you have 2 first round picks. You use it on Caleb and you use it on Rome Odunze. Now, in my opinion, the problem that I have with Ryan Poles is that I believe that he buckles under the pressure. He buckles under the pressure from the fans and from the media, in my opinion. I don't want my GM.
Maybe from other GMs too.
It could be. But I don't want my GM buckling under pressure of anybody. I want him to make his decisions because it's your freaking job, bro.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? So that's his problem,
100%.
in my opinion. I don't think it's necessarily he doesn't see talent because he hit on Brisker, in my opinion. He hit on Kyler Gordon, in my opinion.
Yep.
He hit on Darnell Wright. He hit on Caleb. He hit on Rome. You know what I mean? Those are and you could say, well, it's hard to go wrong there, and I'll get that. I understand that. And then people talk about his trading. He traded a second round pick for Chase Claypool. Do you know who we were throwing the ball to? Demir Bird. Before that, he had to swing on somebody.
It was a tank year though.
It doesn't matter. You still gotta. If you're sitting here and you wanna put anybody's seat, butts in the seats, or you want somebody to develop, whether it be Justin Fields or whatever the case may be, you still got to swing. You cannot go out there. They were rolling out Demir Bird, Byron Pringle, and who else? Equiminius St. Brown.
Byron Pringle cost us a 4th round pick.
I mean, you know what I mean? But that's the thing. He was taking swings. I don't scare money don't make money. So at the end of the day, I don't have a problem with him taking and swinging and missing a couple, right?
Yeah.
Now he did make some. But see, what we as Bears fans do, you know what I'm saying? I'm not just accusing you of it. I'm saying everybody, a lot of people do it. We tend to focus on the negativity and it wipes out anything that's done good. And I just don't see it the exact same way. I see his misses.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sugarcoating it. But at the same time, I still believe that he's made some good decisions. And with what he was given, Robert Quinn contract. Think about that contract, bro. $70 million.
Yep.
30
bad contract. That's what happens when you hire first-time GMs like Pace and Poles.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You got that contract. You got Khalil Mack. He had to get rid of that. He got rid of that one. You got Roquan, who was disgruntled. You got Allen Robinson, who was disgruntled. I mean, you got a bunch of situations that was just not working for the Bears. And then he came in and he took over that. So he was given – this was probably one of the worst GM jobs to take at that time. So, for what he walked into to what we are now, and I believe that the talent level is far beyond what we had. Yeah, we got Keenan Allen. Let's not forget he did rip off Carolina with that trade for for trading back in the draft and being able to get DJ Moore. He signed DJ Moore again.
Yep.
So even though these guys have contracts, the Bears are not hurting for money right now. They're gonna have $80 million this offseason.
$82 million in
right?
cap space.
So $82 million, but you have a defensive end locked up. You have your quarterback on a rookie deal. You have your cornerback locked up. Those are money positions that need to be paid. Left tackle, defensive end, defensive back, quarterback, and wide receiver. Those are your 5 positions that you really got to spend money on. They already got like 3 of those locked up. You see what I'm saying? So in that instance, when I look at it from that perspective, with $82 million, okay, we're in a good shape right there. Now we can make some things happen. We can do some things. We're not hurting for money. We're flexible, and we still have draft picks, and we're still going to benefit from this whole trade with Carolina because we got two second rounders this year. So we got to make it work.
Let me add. I think Ryan Poles came in with a great plan. Let's destroy the roster. Let's build cap space. Let's get rid of the dead weight. Let's build through the draft. That's a great plan. But that's the easiest part of the plan. Yeah. Destroying a roster and essentially tanking for the first season to get high draft capital and so forth, that's pretty easy. Any GM can do that. My problems with him is that when I hear him talk, he doesn't have that confidence. He doesn't sound like Aaron Glenn, I'll tell you that. He doesn't sound like a leader of men. Let's put it that way. And so that worries me because that's a big time position that requires big fucking balls. And I get worried that he's not there. And so with the George McCaskies, I used to joke earlier, the door slams, and also when George McCaskey takes out his gun and says, "Who the fuck is in charge here?" Bam, 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 I am. And so maybe he's not confronting George hard enough to get his way. And then the third thing is everybody misses on picks. Everybody, the trade. I hear what you're saying, Dan, about the Chase Claypool trade. He had to take a swing at it. I was in love with Chase Claypool. Saw him down at the Senior Bowl. Saw tons of Notre Dame games. Thought he was going to be a great NFL player. Should have been.
He wanted to be a model, though.
Exactly. He didn't love the game, right? And which is something that Poles said is important when he brings in players. They got to love the game. Well, dude, you just traded a second round pick for a guy that doesn't love the game. And then as a part of that is
I called it out right when we called it out. Tooch. Second round pick for this guy, too high.
Much
too high on the price. Yep.
And then the other part
here's the thing though. Like with Chase Claypool. And people people talk about me all the time because I was on board. I'm like, hey, I like the deal. I liked it because when I looked at it, I said, okay, Chase Claypool, he had a good rookie season. Mm-hmm. Things went kind of sideways. Okay, maybe he's not vibing with that situation in Pittsburgh. Maybe somebody else can get something out of him. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way most coaches.
Is different.
Most coaches look at it like that. They look at it and say, okay, this dude got talent because you know what? Go look at his combine numbers. There's only 2 people that was his size, his height, that ran as fast as he did, had a 40-some inch vertical. It's only 2 guys, him and Calvin Johnson. So the talent, the attributes are there. That's what people are looking at. There's dripping. That's what I was looking at. Now, I don't know the details of his personal life and what he wanted to do and things like that. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And it turned out to be a bad situation because he didn't focus on football. And that's bogus. That sucks. But that's their due diligence. And like you said, that may be a Poles problem because did you do your proper research on that? I don't know. You know what I'm saying? The situation with Nate Davis, let's be real. 26 years old when he signed with Chicago. He was a Pro Bowler, right? So you sign him and you think, hey, 3 years, $30 million, that's a good deal. That's good for a Pro Bowl right guard, right?
Yep.
That's the way I looked at it. His mother died. He lost love for the game, I guess, whatever. You know what I mean? These are things that you can't really – I can't put that on Poles and be like, you know what?
There were some stories about his work ethic, though.
That might have been, but the dude was a Pro Bowler. He was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah,
you can't take that away from him.
Dan Reeder reported that Poles was told by people inside the house, the word is that he doesn't work hard, which is why Tennessee is happy to let him go. But the one last point I want to make about the problems I have with Poles is, I understand and I appreciate the best player available. But when your offensive line is as terrible as it is, you really need to, when you look at your board, if you've got somebody at 10, like Velus Jones, and you got an offensive lineman at 15, I'm saying, you know what? My offensive line sucks. I'm going to go with the guy that I'm a little less certain is going to be a player in this league. And there were plenty of good offensive line picked after that third round pick of Velus Jones. And so it's, he really makes me frustrated because so much of what he's thinking and how he thinks, I am there. That's how I think. But you gotta really, hit. You gotta appreciate the offensive line, especially when you got young quarterbacks like Fields and then Caleb. You got to do super due diligence, and I'm not talking about a wide net 20 guys and talk. I'm not talking about
the
that.
other three teams in our division have good offensive lines. Yeah. Other three teams in our division have good offensive lines, and I would take any one of those rosters over the Bears. I would rank the Bears roster in the NFC North as the fourth most talented.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
I
was saying we have to be better.
Yes,
you have to be better, and I agree with you, Aldo, on the point that it's not always proper to in my opinion you got to deviate from best available. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you do.
Best available is when you're at a position of power, when you're in a catbird seat, right? Those are luxury picks in my opinion. When you have tons of holes on your roster, like the Bears do now, if the Bears, I'll be honest, and I've been saying this for weeks now, if the Bears go into this draft, and with all the draft picks that they have, if they don't use the first 6 picks at least on offensive and defensive line exclusively, I'm gonna be really pissed off because you don't draft me another wide receiver. Don't do it. You know what I mean? Running back, I'll take another running back because Roschon seems to have problems with concussions. So, you know what I mean? Something like that. But that can come later. You can get him in later on in the draft. But I need offensive linemen. And to me, you need 4 new offensive linemen. Because, like I said, Braxton is a swing tackle. And the other 3, Tevin, he's gone. He's not going to be signed back, I don't believe. You know what I mean? And you just don't have a center right now, in my opinion. So they need 4 offensive linemen, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle. That's what you need.
Yep.
And you need a defensive tackle. You definitely need a bookend pass rusher to help Montez Sweat because he's not Khalil Mack who can get it done by himself. He got to have somebody on the other side of him.
Be edge rusher opposite Montez Sweat, or there really aren't that great offensive linemen at the top of the draft in this draft. It's
I don't care. Pick them anyway.
It's unfortunate for the Bears.
I don't care. Pick them anyway.
I will say this. Abdul Carter, to me, strikes me as a guy who can be as good as Micah Parsons. And for me, that's going to be if he falls to the Bears or the Bears have a chance to trade up 2 or 3 slots to grab that guy, because that to me, he is probably one of 4 sure thing superstars in this draft. Genty, of course, and he's going to go in the middle of the first round, maybe top 10. The Travis Hunter from Colorado. Phenomenal talent. Phenomenal. I mean, fuck. That guy's going to play both. He's going to be the next Deion Sanders. He's going to play both positions, and he's going to be great at them. And I forgot who my 4th guy is, but Carter out of Penn State, man, I just love the way that guy plays. Now, you got to address the offensive line. So you got to spend money. You got all that cap space? Guess what? If the guy comes in asking for $5 million more than what you budgeted for that position, give it to him because you got to protect your quarterback. You got to deviate from the plan a little.
You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that.
Smith from the Chiefs, is a name that's been thrown around. Get solidified like one of the
I don't think Kansas City's going to let him go, though. That Samuel, thank you. It's a defensive tackle from Michigan who I think Mason Graham.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy is,
Yeah.
could be as good as Aaron Donald, which is a guy I
My
love.
Danikin, lately my philosophy has been two pronged as far as like how the NFL has shifted in recent years, maybe in the past decade or so, to more of an offensive league. Like I always say, we used to say defenses wins championships, but I don't think that's the case anymore. You look at the teams that made the playoffs this year; they were all high-powered offenses.
Right.
The Chiefs, you could say they did it all with defense. They won a lot of close games, but they still have a great offense under Andy Reid with Mahomes. But offenses and even the rules have changed to allow for more scoring, to give the offense slight advantages. Defenses have been the ones who've had to adapt. And that's why I think it's important that the Bears hire an offensive coach. Not only that, I've also come to the decision that head coach is way more important than a general manager these days. If you do not have someone, a general manager can put players on your roster, and if they're successful, drafting help the head coach. But the head coach is the one who's on the field and adds more. Is responsible for winning more than a GM. A GM can do with the salary cap and find players, if they're good drafters, find players that will make a mediocre coach good, or a great coach. But great coaches develop talent. They win consistently with what they're giving, what they're given on their roster. And they develop offenses that are constantly taking advantages of the other defenses. Look at coaches like Sean McVay, who made Brian Flores look foolish. And the week before that, Ben Johnson made Flores look foolish. So I'm out on Brian Flores. I think he's a good defensive coordinator, but towards the end of the year, people had him figured out. And then he's a defensive coach. I think with the Bears, we've had this experience where we hire these defensive coaches, and every year we're replacing an offensive coordinator. We went through it with Lovey. I can't remember how many offensive coordinators Lovey had. And then
Six. I think it was 6.
Same thing with Eberflus had 2. I think John Fox had a couple as well. What we're looking for is an offensive head coach whose system will remain in place, and that'll help us win consistently, within our division, within the conference, and hopefully get through the playoffs into a championship. But I don't know if the Bears have realized how important the head coach is over GM. So, in my opinion, I think the teams that are successful have these really excellent head coaches that are in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I think it's very important for a head coach, right? The head coach, like you said, is probably more important than the GM.
We have to nail it. We got to nail this one, Danikin.
You have to. You can't mess up this one. It has to work, because if you mess this up, if it's messed up any way, shape, or form, you're ruining another quarterback in Chicago, and you're setting your team back another 5 years. That's what we're going to do. We're going to set ourselves back another 5 years. It'll be another whole restart. And so that's the big thing. I'm not big on offensive or defense, because I can lean the other way, and I could say, look at what Nagy. The defense was lacking then. Look at Trestman when we were giving up 50 burgers. Well, offense was outstanding. Offense was great,
and they were both
giving up 50 burgers. They
first-time head coaches. They weren't ready. Aldo talked about it last week about how Matt Nagy. If
you go get an offensive
too early,
if you go get an offensive play caller like who, Ben Johnson, that's a first-time head coach.
It's a first-time head coach, exactly.
So I think that's why they're leaning right now towards Mike McCarthy, because it's like, okay, he's offensive and he's been there before. So that's why they're my dream was for it to be.
We might be in the minority if we like Mike McCarthy. I think Bears fans are probably like, oh, not McCarthy. The guy kicked our ass every year when he was in Green Bay. He had a Hall of Fame quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But he could really do something with Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback the Bears have had. I don't know, maybe in my lifetime. I think he's really special. Let me tell you, the kid was sacked 68 times this year. You know how many sacks he avoided?
50.
50.
How many did he run into, though? How many did he run into?
Wait.
How many did he run into?
Hold on.
I know you. Bro,
no other quarterback was close to that 50
credit,
number, though.
No. If you give him
no
credit,
other quarterback.
we call out the other stuff too.
Yeah,
right. But I'm just saying, no other quarterback avoided 50 sacks in the league. No other quarterback was close to avoiding.
I don't think anybody. I know he ran into over 30 of them.
Yeah, he ran, and he's a rookie. You know, he's got to feel the pocket presence. He's got to get used to the speed of the players in the NFL. It's a lot different than playing in the Pac-12.
Right.
You know, I mean, to me, the kids, I see a lot of promise. Now, the one guy that he idolized was Aaron Rodgers, and the guy who coached Aaron Rodgers is sitting out there for the Bears to hire. Now, I might be in the minority if I say I want to hire Mike McCarthy. I wouldn't be upset if they did, because I flashed up his record and stuff. This is a proven head coach. This is a guy with a winning record. He's got a Super Bowl ring. You know, he may look like a guy that's come in to steal your sandwich, but it doesn't matter. He's got a proven record. He's going to change the culture. He's pretty much as close as they're going to get to this leader of men that the Bears are looking for. And I don't agree that the Bears even know what they're looking for, because to me, they're three clowns, you know, atop the management. We might have the worst management in the NFL. I'd rank them in the bottom 5, you know, ownership, management, et cetera. If you threw Eberflus in there, definitely bottom 3 in the NFL as far as like coach, GM, president, and ownership. But
I think McCarthy is not gonna. I don't think it's a bad hire. I would be okay with the hire, to be honest with you, because he's gonna get you. Like I said, if we get McCarthy, it'll be 10-7, 11 and you know what I mean, 11-6 or whatever. You know what I mean, and you'll have a good season, things like that. You'll see some growth and progress. But my only thing is, just look at the man's demeanor on the sidelines. Look at, you know, certain things about him. And to me, I need more, bro. Like I need my team to take on the identity of the coach, and that identity is a lackadaisical identity that I don't like seeing on the football field. I want to see currently.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? Yep. I draw the comparison to Detroit, and I talked about it with Aldo earlier.
Yep.
Dan Campbell, that team has taken on his identity, bro. They've taken on his mindset.
They're physical,
you know
too.
What I'm saying?
The Lions.
Physical, yeah, strong.
Physical.
And to me, you know, I look at Mike McCarthy. Is he gonna make the Bears be physical? Is he gonna make them, you know? It's just ho hum. It's just like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? And that's my thing. He's a good candidate. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but he's not what I want. You know what I mean? And what I want is somebody that, like I said, get in your face, hold people.
I like Monken for someone like that. Todd Monken. He's a creative cursor. I love that. You know, this guy's great at cursing. You know, they'll make you laugh. Yeah, he uses swear words creatively. I love that. You know, I wouldn't mind having him. I think there might be some potential there. Ben Johnson, I have no idea. I think he's a great play caller and a good designer of an offensive system. I don't know what he'd be like as a head coach. And again, here we are taking a leap of faith that he's someone to. And unfortunately, we're in a division where we're looking up at the other 3 teams, and all 3 of those teams have good rosters, and they have they all made the playoffs.
You got to kill in the trenches, man. But all of those teams are good in the trenches on both sides of the ball. The Bears are way behind in that category right now. Way behind.
Very far. That's why that any coach who comes in here, the next head coach is going to struggle at first. You know, I don't expect. What were we, 5-12 this year? You know, 5-12, 5-12. We're not going to next year. You might be happy with 7-10. You know, I think we can do better, of course, but we're going to struggle for a few more years.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Dan. Is she a fan of yours? Christy Loves Sports.
She's on a podcast with me as well. We do Following the Play. So
I gotta watch.
She does some of that. Yeah, it's pretty good. She's a
is the podcast on video?
Yeah.
It is. It's on YouTube and
Aldo and I are
everything.
dirty old men, Danny.
She's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. She fire. She fire.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, she your girlfriend? Your
No,
just a friend?
man. No, I just yeah.
Just wanted to know how nervous you were.
I'm good, man.
Welcome, Christy. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your thoughts with us. All right, we got about 10, 15 minutes and we'll close the show. Dan, we usually save these last 10, 15 minutes to talk about some of the things we may have seen in the movie theater or streaming, any popular shows. Why don't you give it a thought while Tooch shares anything that he's seen lately that wants to recommend?
Okay.
Well, I did see Juror number 2 that Aldo and I
what'd you
never
think?
got back to talking. I thought it was great. Love
Good.
the ending. Love the ending. I love the way it like kept you, thinking throughout the whole movie. You thought about what was going to happen, what you would do, when how the movie would end, whether or not such and such would be resolved or whatnot. And you generally felt for the main characters and their dilemmas. And then recently, I watched American Primeval, and I watched it in like a day or two because it was like very bingeable. So do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Aaron reached out to me and said, "You need to check it out. This is outstanding."
good.
Who's the lead character? Taylor Kish.
Yeah,
who
that's
was
a
on Friday Night Lights.
Peter Berg directed, who's done a lot of great movies like The Rundown with Rock and Stifler.
Yeah,
and
he
then,
did Friday Night Lights too. The movie.
Friday Night Lights, fantastic movie. One of the greatest sports movies of all time. I
Totally agree.
Yeah,
It
totally
was good,
agree.
real good.
Booby, you didn't lift, Booby. Right? And then he also did Mile 22, which I thought was a really good Mark Wahlberg movie with martial arts, that Indonesian martial arts star from The Raid. If you ever saw The Raid movie.
Yeah, I
those were
love
awesome,
that movie.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, great choreography.
What was the title on that last one?
Mile 22.
Mile 22.
Really, John Malkovich and Mark Wahlberg.
Wow.
Yeah, really good movie.
Mile 22.
Yep.
I'll check it out.
You haven't seen it, it's great.
I haven't seen a good
it's a spy
martial arts
movie. Spy movie
Cool.
with some martial arts thrown in, and
Dan,
excellent.
what do you got?
Man, I'm gonna give you something. I'm gonna do something a little different, right? So I'm gonna go. I got a 7-year-old kid, so
I got a 6 and 8.
6 and
and a 26-year-old son. Too.
Oh man,
He's
you
on his
started
own.
over, man. What are you doing, man?
I started over. Yeah, I married my Filipino pen pal.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start with this one. Sonic 3. That was a good movie. Believe it or not, I enjoyed it.
Love the Sonic
He had a
stuff.
good time. He enjoyed it. He'd been talking about it for a long time, so we got to see that a couple weeks back. He enjoyed it. And another thing that I'm gonna throw out here. This is an old show that's no longer like new episodes, but you can go back and binge watch it. If you haven't watched it, I don't know. Some people have watched it, but it's a show called The Unit. Have you guys ever seen that?
No.
The Unit. It's got Dennis Haysbert's in it. A couple of,
Great
basically,
actor.
it's what it is about a special forces team in the Army, and they do these special missions that nobody's privy to, and they don't really have to answer to anybody. And they go through and do these things. It's a pretty good show, man. I like it. It's called The Unit.
Nice.
And I'm like I started watching it again. I'm like on season 1. It's got like 4 seasons, I think 4 or 5 seasons. And I'm on like episode 5 right now. So yeah.
That's like the Mile 22 is about like a special unit like that. They don't answer to anybody.
Yeah.
Wahlberg and Malkovich. Malkovich is like the leader.
Yeah. Like one part they said that he had orders. The leader of the unit, it's like 4 guys, but the leader, he was like, they gave him orders. When you get there, when the other guys of your unit arrive, you take over and do what you need to do to make things work. Doesn't matter what you do, just handle the situation. And he's like, okay, so he gets there, the FBI is there, the CIA, all these other agencies, and they're like, well, you're not in charge, blah blah blah.
I got to see.
Does that mean you're going to stand down? He said, no, that, you know what I mean? He said, that won't be necessary. You know what I mean? Do I have to tell you again? That won't be necessary. He said, well, does that mean you're going to stand down? He said, that won't be necessary either. So he's like, no, we're going to do what we do. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty good show, man. I like it.
Excellent, excellent. I haven't seen anything that sounds nearly as good as what you guys recommended, but Subservience, if you are into,
I would have
cheesy...
fucked that robot, no question.
So,
right? I
text
Dan Aguirre too. I'm like, have you seen this? Like, I definitely would have fucked that robot. It's like a Megan Fox robot.
It's exactly. Megan Fox plays a robot. It takes place a little bit in the future, and AI technology is basically overtaken the economy in the United States. And there's robots available for cooking, hired as nannies and so forth. And so the lead character, his wife has been sick and is about having a baby and so forth. And so he brings in the Subservient, which is the Megan Fox robot. And so, of course, she starts to malfunction. She gets super horny, and he can't say no. I can't say no. Nobody can say no.
I told my wife, I'm like, I'm sorry, I would have fucked that robot.
Yeah, man. Yeah. If Megan Fox is a robot, it's
no turning back. We can't have one of those around here ever.
Yeah, there's no more loyalty involved at that point.
That's right. You're not sending her back to Amazon. You're not.
Yeah. I texted Dan Aguirre. I'm like, I would have fucked that robot. He's like, I haven't seen it yet.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. All right, guys. Any final words? Let's go around the table here. Dan, our special guest, again, thank you for hanging out for the entire show and your perspective on things.
Hung out like after I got on here.
Yeah, I was hoping that you two guys wouldn't meet because, I figured you guys were going to get into a really heavy debate and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Dan, what do you want? Last words, brother.
Hey, number one, I like the platform that you guys do, man. That's number one. I appreciate it. And anytime you can come on here and you can have conversation, I will conversate and have dialogue with anybody when it comes to Chicago Bears football. Actually, sports in general. You know what I mean? We don't have to agree all the time. We can have differences of opinions. That's all we do. We just giving our opinion. We just talking about sports. That's all it is. Why we got to get sensitive about it? You know what I mean? I will never get sensitive about it. That's what this is. It's fun to me. It's a good time. So I appreciate the platform. I appreciate you guys let me come on and talk a little bit and conversate about it. You guys make some good points. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Of course, y'all hit me up whenever you want to. You all guys are welcome to come to us and speak to us as well. I'll try to make that happen at some point real soon. And man, for sure, man. It's been a blast. I've had fun. This type of thing is good, man. It's healthy dialogue is good,
really
bro.
is.
Like we could disagree and have a good time and laugh about it at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Exactly. And that's the key point, particularly with this show on the Bar Room and some of our others is we have to laugh, because we don't want to be on here throwing F-bombs and frustrated with this, for 2 hours. Save it for 15 minutes and then laugh the rest of the show. It's much more fun that way. Tooch, what do you got, brother?
Yeah, we all want the Bears to win.
Absolutely.
And, I got nothing else related. I'm like, I had a great time with you and Danny. And
you got a weekend
Danikin,
sports betting tips show Friday?
Yes, guys want to know if we can do one. I know I've been sad if I know happy for Aldo if he's retiring and sad if we can't do the show anymore because it's a creative outlet for me. It's a love. Of mine to come on here and talk with Aldo about all sorts of stuff, but Aldo, you got to do what you got to do,
That's right. Yeah, I haven't made it official yet, but thanks for letting the cat out of the bag, too.
All right. Well, I've been so despondent.
Business in the streets, man.
I was so despondent, it was hard to write my Bears State of Affairs tonight.
Oh, look at that. I could tell there were tears all over the script and stuff. But no, this has been fun. I love doing this. And we do have some announcements about the future of the Bar Room coming up in the next week or two. We're just trying to finalize some things. But we will always look for opportunities to talk to people like Dan and other people who just have, the Bar Room was always built with the idea of promoting voices that generally don't have a voice in a big platform, you know? And so we were able to get a mix of broadcast professionals along with novice podcasters, first-time podcasters, people early in their careers in the podcast world, sharing their thoughts about the Chicago Bears. That's what I love most. And what I love most is meeting people like Dan who have such informed opinions about the Chicago Bears. We are all tired of listening to the national media. They don't know nothing. Except a couple of words that the producer told them just before they went on air.
Yeah.
You know, and it's embarrassing.
Kirk Herbstreit, I'm talking to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you. And so, you know, places like 30 Kings of the Midway and here at the Barroom and several other really good podcasts, they give you informed opinions based on facts, and that's the way it is. So I'm really, really fortunate to have done this for 10 years, and we'll see what's ahead in the near future. Dan, again, thank you very much. Tooch, I love you. I can't wait to see your next porno movie. Oh, and by the way,
the video. You missed the picture that he put.
Oh, he knows that picture. I've circulated that.
Okay,
Autographed copies too. By the way, I want to say to the young lady who's your co-host, what's her name? Christy?
Christy. Yeah, Christy.
Yeah, I apologize if I offended her in any way, because since I said that comment, she hasn't posted anything. And so I apologize if
no, she's not offended by that.
Okay,
she's not
good.
offended by that. She good. She good with it.
Well, we'll bring her on the show next time, and then we'll really get into it. All right. For Tooch, for Dan, goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.
And if the dam breaks open many years too soon, and if there is no room upon the hill, and if your head explodes with dark forebodings too, I'll see you on the dark side of the moon.